I've been contacted by people all over the world, some of whom haven't been in New Zealand for several years, saying, I didn't ask for this payment. I don't think I should be getting it.
So let's have a look at the response to that. This was actually from this morning's breakfast show. The Prime Minister, that obviously was before that came out, but responded as to what was going on with these payments, that some people who weren't entitled for were getting them.
You talk about this being a targeted solution. How much of a targeted solution is it, though, if New Zealanders living overseas are able to claim this payment?
Yeah, so roughly 2.1 million New Zealanders are eligible, and you're eligible if you earn 70,000 or less, you're over the age of 18, you're not already receiving things like the winter energy payment, but also you're a taxpayer resident in New Zealand. So look, we have designed a system that doesn't require New Zealanders to do anything, they just receive it. But in using that simple design, there will be a small number of individuals who we may not be able to tell are not in New Zealand. Again, relative to the number who are eligible and will rightly receive it, it's a small number, but at the same time, I'd rather that simplicity, because the alternative is that you have a system where you apply for something and we know we wouldn't have reached the people we needed to.
So what they're saying very clearly there is that they went with a very basic system, a bit of a catch-all, and it caught some people up in it that weren't entitled to it. Now, that to me, if it was done the other way, National would be screaming too much bureaucracy. It's done an oversimplified way. It means people are going to get caught up in it and are going to be receiving something that they shouldn't be entitled to. But my question was, when I saw that this morning, how many people? Going back now to the evening news, this explains it a little bit.
Revenue doesn't know exactly how many ineligible people are receiving the payment. But in a statement, the IRD says if someone has left the country and hasn't told them, the department will treat them as resident here.
I never even thought about that. I don't know if people are supposed to do that. If you're leaving for an OE for 6 or 12 months, are you supposed to tell IRD? Honestly, it was something I never ever thought of. But so if they haven't been told, then they just assume that person's still in New Zealand for whatever reason.
And they may receive the cost of living payment.
We think the number's probably around 1% who've received this according to IRD data that is out of date.
But the government has no plans to chase those people up unless they've acted fraudulently.
The alternative of an application by 2.1 million New Zealanders would have cost more than the money it saved.
A cash boost for Kiwis in New Zealand and a surprise one for some living overseas.
So we're clear on that now. There's one other thing I want to add to the story. It's 1%, they think. They think it's 1%. So in other words, it's 99% accurate and National is angered over it. I don't know if there'll be any business dealing, any public service dealing, any finances ever spent if they were 99% accurate. I think most people would be happy with that. But it's 1% off, allegedly, and they're angered by that. And on top of that, if they had have done it the way that they're now being criticized for, it would have cost more than the money they would have saved by not paying those 1%. And if that had been the case, National would have been angered by that.
Yeah, it's hilarious that they've found a way of, basically whinging about a small inaccuracy in the cost of living payments that are going out. I mean, not really surprising. That's a way better way of doing it than applications, because as Ardern said, I don't think that would have reached the right amount of people. And 1%. I think back to the Revenue Minister and IRD talking about how they need a better system to basically chase up some of our tax loopholes and tax that's going, basically falling through the cracks when it comes to people and businesses of higher income. We don't see the same anger or whatever around that.
But this is what we always try and do, George, and you'll know this, that maybe I'm a little bit too addicted to looking to the numbers sometimes, but you drill a bit deeper. And if you said to any voter, if your government gets spending 99% correct, would you be happy with that? Most would say yes. I think most would say yes, understanding that there's always going to be some. So what is National angered about? Well, it shows the what do they call that game where you have caps and balls and you shift them around on the table, and how it's a shell game. That's what it is. It's a shell game. That the diversion is, this is terrible because there's wasteful money, but they're not going, hang on, 99% of the people, according to the government, are being hit correctly. And I won't say this is what National does. Well, I will say this is what National does, but this is what opposition parties do, yeah? And this time around, the opposition party happens to be National, so this is what they're doing. Here's an example from some of the tried and true from Leader Luxon. I'm actually don't know what it's got to do with Three Waters, but the point that Luxon added that the government has added 14,000 bureaucrats here for $2 billion a year to no avail. He seemed to be referring to the 14,000 additional public sector employees hired since 2017, a topic his colleague Simeon Brown raised in the House. So that sounds like a lot of people, yeah, 14,000. But what does that mean? What is 14,000? Well, if you actually have a look at the people getting paid by the government workforce at the moment, it's 436,700 people in 2021. So therefore, 14,000 additional people is about 3%. So in other words, National is rallying against this massively inflated, blown out of all proportion public sector. They're talking about 3%. So what they're going to do is they're going to come and fix all the ills of the world and stop this balloon payments and all these people by getting rid of 2%. And then it's going to be okay. So it's exactly the same thing. They use the number which sounds massive, 14,000, but they don't go, congratulations to the government for getting what we believe 97, 98% of the public sector to be right. Remember, we had former Minister Woodhouse on, who said basically that they didn't think we'd lose all 14,000 of those, but we've got too many now. So let's say you lost half of those. Let's say you lost 7,000. That's 1.5% of the number of. So they're actually arguing, and they're making it a cornerstone of their election, over 1.5% of the public sector. It's ridiculous, and that's the shell game.
Yeah, it's funny. This page that you're on has come up like so many times that we've talked about National.
Oh, is it?
and their messaging. I imagine it will be the increases in the Ministry of Social Development that National will have their eye on. But again, as overall, that's more of a, and I'll use the phrase, that's more of an ideological move. Because as you put it rationally or logically, it's just like 2% or whatever. They're more just pissed off that we have more public servants and as part of the sort of welfare complex in this country.
It's kind of that idea as well that, and I know we're not talking about polling here, but anything within 2 or 3% of the margins is a pretty good result. You have a tolerance of a few percent in anything you do. So surely when it comes to a workforce, you have a tolerance of a couple of percent between like the Goldilocks number and then being too little and too many. And if you're already at 3% of what you think is ideal, you must be pretty much within that margin of error, or you must be bloody close to it anyway. And if you're only 1%, like as the payment that they're talking about, how can 1% error, let's just call it what it is, but it sounds like that error is based on people not declaring as opposed to a government balls up, 1% error, and not having a massive new bureaucracy which National is going to rally against to find that 1%, costing them 10 times as much as what that 1% would have saved. I just think this is the shell game. This is the shell game we want to continually tell you about, to go, like, take it for what it is, take the information in, hear it, but find out what that means, what it actually means.
The news there didn't do a great job either, because they basically just repeated what would have, the start of the day, National would have had a few there, and their MPs would have had a few things they wanted to discuss. That was definitely one angle that they wanted to go with. And the news story, the news of the payment, is built around a National Party talking point, right? It's not built around. It's totally like the news event is that some lady in Australia got the payment. And it sounds like she's going to return it. Whoa.
And what's funny is political parties using outliers when it suits their agenda, and when it doesn't, they say, well, those are outliers. Everyone does that, right? Like Labor will be doing it at the moment as well. I mean, Nicola Willis says, I've received emails from all over the world. What does that mean? 4? You know, like England, USA, Australia, Germany. Have you received 4, or have you received 4,000? You know, what does that mean? Emails from all over the world. If it's a 1% error rate and a 99%, you know, hit the target rate, as I say, as I say again, that would have cost you more to find that 1% than you would have saved in actually not paying that 1%. So it's the shell game. I think we just need to keep pointing at it for what it is. When people are shuffling the shells around, saying, look here, it's misdirection, it's don't look at this, look over here. I mean, don't look at 3%, look at 14,000. 14,000, big number, 14,000, 3%, little number, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Look at emails from all over the world. Emails from all over the world, scary. 8 billion people in the world, emails from all over the world. Don't look at 1%. Small number. So, you know, move those shells. But hopefully we'll be here to go like this with the shells. Ta-da! Look, there's the balls.